Well, hello guys. Back out here at the park today doing some more skills practicing, a little wood carving and knife handling. Beautiful day out here, nice and sunny and warm. I think temperature is probably well into the 80s. It's just gorgeous. Summer's here. So using a Tanto blade this morning. You know, this is not my first choice for carving and wood use. I much prefer a drop point or a clip point with a nicely curved edge right here. But you know, I think you should practice with all kinds of different tools, and so that you understand them and can use them in a pinch. Some of you old timers will remember a book that came out in the very early 80s, if I remember correctly, or the late 70s, and it was called Survival Knives, and it was written by a gentleman named J.E. Smith. It's a real collectible now, if you can even find a copy. I actually had the first and second editions, and foolishly I let them go somewhere. It kind of came about I think around the time of the survival knife craze, the Rambo, Jimmy Lyle Rambo knife craze, when Parker and a lot of different companies were bringing in the Japanese made knives with the hollow handles. And so the thing that I remember most profoundly from that book was a statement he made that a survival knife is the knife you have with you when you need it, when you're in a survival situation. And it's really true. We can't pick the time and place. You're not going to walk around all the time with a sawback fixed blade knife on your hip. Maybe if you live out in the wilds of, you know, Montana or Wyoming, and maybe you live on acreage and you live in a small town and there's ranchers and nobody much notices something like that because it's just a tool. But in an urban environment, you're probably not going to pull that off because people, their sensitivities are just so different. And even a large folder like this, now like this is about easily a 4-inch blade, 4-inch blade on this folding Smith Wesson knife, very large, very heavy, and the local jurisdiction, the local community, their ordinances only permit a 3-inch. So technically, were you to be come in contact with law enforcement in that community and they were to have reason to check your knife, you could potentially get a citation and have it seized. So I'm not saying they would. They might just admonish you and send you on your way. It's hard to say, but even a large knife like this would draw a lot of attention. Now, you know, everybody knows and understands a Swiss Army knife. It's probably one of the most beloved designs that nobody thinks much of, and a lot of people own, and I don't even know that people think of it as a knife. Anyway, I'm getting off track. The point I wanted to make is that practice with what you have, practice with all kinds of different things, because you never know what you're going to have with you, or you may have to come into a knife. You may be in a situation where you just have to pick something up and use it. Now, I do think that a folder is the knife that you're most often going to have in your possession. This is where I kind of differ with my friend John, Wingman 115, and if you haven't visited his channel, please do so. He has a lot of good information. And now John is a big fan of fixed blades, and he's even designed a couple that are being produced right now and sold. So he has a lot of knowledge, and I respect his opinion. But I kind of differ with him on this. I do like fixed blades, but the fact of the matter is I'm much more often likely to have a folder either in a belt pouch like this. This does not have a pocket clip, and it's much too heavy for the pocket, so it relies on a pouch. This is an old design. It's probably 20 years old, I'll bet, easily. But I'm a big believer in folders, because this is what you're going to probably have with you. Tanto blade, like I said, not exactly my first choice, but I need to understand how to use it, and I need to practice with it. So I'm out here today. For instance, here is a little mortise cut, so I've shaped it out, and I need to try and pop these chips out of the wood. And this is where you want to practice your skills and your knife handling, so that you're not cutting yourself. The last thing you need in a trail situation is a trail mishap or self-inflicted injury. So you want to really be careful. Plan your cuts, practice them slowly, so that you don't inflict a cut on yourself. I'm going to put that tip in there and just pry that little chip out, and I should really get this hand back. Plan those cuts. Plan what you're doing carefully. Don't just do it quickly and brazenly. Practice with care and slowly. You know, I say the same thing about like firearms practice. You know, speed will come, but what's important is to practice for accuracy, and don't practice fast, practice carefully. So I'm talking and working at the same time, and being a male, I'm not good at that. Now ladies, you guys have got all the advantage on us dudes. You guys can multitask. I'm bumping the camera. You guys can multitask, but us men, we're kind of like one-track mind. All we can do is one thing at a time. I've seen my wife do some incredible stuff simultaneously. So work carefully and slowly, and plan your cuts. Make sure that you're checking what you're doing so your hand isn't in the way. Now here is another one I'm working on, and what I'm finding is that this secondary point down here on the Tanto blade is really good for making these small troughing cuts in here. See that? That secondary point is really wonderful for this. So I'm learning a little something about these knives even as I go. And I've already done some different cuts with it. Yeah, so I'm going to get back to practicing here, but I just thought I'd talk about that for a few minutes. I know a lot of people feel the same way about the Tanto, that would not be their first choice for a bushcraft blade, and probably not mine either. Again, I really like clip or drop point, but again, you don't know what you're going to have with you when you need it. And maybe you leave the house and you forgot to take a knife, and now you're relying on something like this, which pretty much lives in my glove box. So suddenly I have to learn to use it. Just something to think about. Alright, we'll talk to you later.